Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Hello, once again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. If you have any questions regarding any of the topics that we talk about on the show each and every week, feel free to give us a call, toll-free 800-700-1980. Again, our toll-free number is 800-700-1980. And again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. Each week, the topics that we discuss are tools and strategies that you can actually use in order to enhance what it is that you've already been able to accomplish when it comes to your retirement planning. Maybe you're 5 years away from retirement. Maybe you are already retired. This is the show you want to listen to because, again, we're going to give you hard facts and tangible things that you can actually use to maybe enhance and maximize what you're getting from Social Security. Maybe to maximize your pensions, maximize and enhance your investments, minimize fees, strategies that will help you regarding your estate planning, maybe your trust and will planning, long-term care. The list goes on and on. So each and every week we try to cover topics that we think are going to be pertinent to you in those areas and try to take a holistic approach to the estate planning, retirement planning process. And what I mean by that, it's one thing for someone to give you investment advice. The challenge is that without looking at things from a holistic standpoint, somebody can give you some investment advice, and that advice could have a positive or negative impact on your taxes, or maybe how you're going to be receiving your Social Security, or have an effect on pensions and all the rest of it. So if you have any questions about any of the topics I'm going to be discussing today, or maybe you have questions about something I didn't get a chance to talk about today regarding your personal situation, feel free to give us a call, toll-free 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. So let's get started. And today what I want to talk about is this. Last week on the show, I made an offer out to all of you, just basically stating, hey, listen, I want to make sure that I'm, talking about topics that you guys care about rather than a bunch of things you could care less about. So what we said is, hey, listen, call into the show, give me some topics, you'd want me to discuss. And if I pick the topic that you wanted me to discuss on the show and I aired it the following week, then we would go ahead and send you a gift certificate for $25 at Starbucks as a thank you for participating and giving us a good topic to talk about. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you for calling in. I do have a topic that a gentleman called in last week after the show. And the topic that we're going to talk about today is something that we've discussed before on the show, but I thought it would be a great time to bring it up again since we haven't talked about it in a while. And the question that he had posed, or the question he thought it would be important for me to discuss, is CalPERS. And the reason why he wanted me to discuss CalPERS is because he heard that, some people that are entitled to CalPERS can lose out on their Social Security. So this is going to be an important topic. Whether you're receiving CalPERS, whether you're receiving CalSTRS, maybe you're getting FERS, you're a federal employee. Any of you that are listening to the show, or maybe you know someone that's a state, federal employee, here's what you need to take into consideration. Here's what happens and here's what I see. And this is why it's so important that all of you, if you are planning on doing retirement planning, it's so important that you sit down with a good advisor that specializes in retirement planning that can kind of make sure that they review your situation and you don't run into any surprises. Because here's what we see that happens. Some people start off in their careers working one job, and over the years, obviously we switch. Or we end up not staying in the same job, but we go into different areas. Well, there's many of you out there that are listening to a show right now that might have worked a job in the past where you had contributed to Social Security. And maybe you contributed to Social Security for some time. And now you got into another career, and maybe you're working for the state, and let's say you're getting CalPERS or CalSTRS, or again, you're a federal employee, whatever it may be, and you're going to get a pension through that organization. And you were contributing to the pension, but you no longer have been contributing to Social Security, but in the past you did. Well, here's the challenge. Some of you are getting ready to retire, and you're thinking, well, I know I'm going to get X amount from my CalPERS, and let's just say, or my pension, that's going to be $4,000 a month. And according to my Social Security statements, I estimate I'm going to get $1,200 a month from Social Security. So now I'm banking on $5,200 a month coming in. And you don't do your research, you never sit down with an advisor, you never review this scenario, and you find out after you retire that, yeah, you'll get your CalPERS. The challenge is that you're going to get dinged on your Social Security because you're under what is called the windfall program. So what happens is this: when you are getting your pension, and again, you contributed to Social Security before in the past, for whatever reason, by you qualifying for CalPERS, CalSTRS, you end up getting a penalty. So instead of getting that $1,200 a month you thought you were going to get, or whatever the amount was, now it might only be $400 a month. And you might say, well, that's not fair. Well, that's what it is. So those of you that are getting a pension, CalPERS, CalSTRS, FERS, maybe you work for the county, whatever pension you're getting, what you want to do, and I'm going to make your life easy, what you can do to double verify is go to ssa.gov. Again, you want to go to ssa.gov. That's the Social Security website. You can register, and it's going to give you your Social Security numbers, what they estimate you're going to receive when you retire. But they do have a windfall calculator on their website. So what you can do is you can actually plug in your information. It'll ask you some questions. You can plug in your information, the specifics about your situation, and then what it'll do is give you a real accurate number as to what you can expect to receive Social Security-wise. So why is this so important? Well, because, when it comes to retirement planning, income planning is the most important thing. That is what's going to sustain you during your retirement. So if you're going into the game expecting, hey, I'm going to get X amount, and then when you go to retire, you find out, wait a minute, what I believe to be true is no longer true, and I'm actually going to be receiving $1,000 or $1,500 less than I thought, that's a pretty good chunk of change. That can make a difference in somebody being able to retire or not be able to retire. So it's very important for those of you that are under that situation to get that reviewed. Because if you find out, wait a minute, I am going to have a shortfall of X amount of dollars, now a plan needs to be put in place on, hey, how can we now make up that difference? What strategies can we utilize to fill in that gap? And a good investment advisor will be able to sit down with you that specializes in retirement planning and go over these things with you and share ideas on what you can do to fill in the gaps, because it is what it is. So I want to continue this conversation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about this windfall, and I'm also going to talk about how this ties into Social Security and Social Security taxation and all the rest of it. So again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. You got questions on any of these specific topics, please don't hesitate to give me a call toll-free 800-700-1980. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
And we're back. You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. If any of you are listening to the show and maybe you're like, hey, Rick, you know what? I have questions about my own retirement planning. And, I just kind of want to learn how to maybe wring out every nickel out of my Social Security and out of my pensions. Maybe I got questions on how my investments should be working in retirement. Maybe you got questions about your trust and will planning, or maybe long-term care or taxes, or you just want a second opinion on your planning. You just want a second pair of eyeballs on it just to get a quick review and just make sure there's nothing that you're missing. We'd be happy to provide that to you. No cost. If you give us a call right now, what I'll do is I'll do an analysis for you personally. We'll offer that to you. I can even do a 15-minute phone consultation with you if you'd like. Just give us a call. Call us 800-700-1980. Again, 800-700-1980. Be happy to give you a second opinion, maybe give you some tidbits on what you can do to maybe enhance what it is that you've already been able to accomplish when it comes to your retirement planning process. Also, feel free to check us out on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. Again, our website address is safeguardinvestment.com. So where we left off was we were talking about CalPERS and pensions, CalPERS, CalSTRS, FERS, those of you that are receiving pensions. And what we were saying is you are under what's called the windfall program. Some of you may have been contributing to Social Security in the early years of your career, and maybe you made a career change, and now you've been contributing to your pensions, no longer contributing to Social Security, and you're thinking, well, I did pay into Social Security, and I am expected X amount of a benefit for what I did contribute, but unfortunately, because you are on one of these pension programs, you may be under the windfall program, which means you actually get penalized. So an amount that you were expecting to receive will actually be less. So what I was saying in the previous segment is you can go to the Social Security website at ssa.gov. There is a calculator there where you can plug in your information and it will tell you what you can expect to receive when you do retire. That way you're not just taking things on face value, because again, retirement income is so important, and it's such a shame that some people go into retirement expecting to receive one figure, find out there's a huge shortfall. Some people are like, well, I guess what? I'm going to have to work a few more years. And others are like, well, I guess maybe I may have to downsize, sell the home, downsize, and move someplace, less expensive or whatever. We may have to make adjustments. But again, a good advisor would sit down with you. If you do your planning proactively, they would be able to point these things out to you. That way you don't run into any surprises in retirement. But you want to deal with somebody that specializes in retirement planning and does that. And if you need help with any of these things, or you have questions about any of these topics, or maybe questions about things I didn't get a chance to talk about on the show today, give me a call toll free right now, 800-700-1980. And we can set up a phone consultation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or give you some tidbits. So I want to carry on further this pension plan situation, and I want to explain how it also ties into Social Security. Because here's the other thing. So what I was saying is, hey, listen, we go into retirement expecting X amount from our pensions, X amount from Social Security, and some of us, unfortunately, are going to get penalized and not quite get as much as we expect to get in Social Security. But to make matters worse, I hate to tell you this, but to make matters worse, let's assume you're this person that gets CalPERS. And now not only does your Social Security get dinged, so instead of getting, let's say you're expecting $1,000 or $1,200 a month, and now you're only getting $400 a month. Well, if your spouse passes away, you can't get their Social Security. So let me explain this to you under normal circumstances. Let's assume husband and wife are both receiving Social Security. Let's assume one spouse is getting $2,000, the other one's getting $1,500. The spouse that was getting $2,000 a month in Social Security passes away. Well, now the spouse that is living, let's say they were getting $1,500 a month from Social Security, they have the option of keeping their Social Security or taking the higher of the two. Obviously, they're going to take the higher of the two, so they're going to take the deceased spouse's Social Security of $2,000 a month. Well, if you're getting CalPERS and your spouse passes away, and maybe your spouse was getting $1,500 a month Social Security, you don't have the option of getting their Social Security. So again, CalPERS penalizes you a little bit on that as well. So it's key to make sure you're aware of these things, so that way not only are you and your spouse, don't find yourselves running short in retirement, but also your retirement plan has a proactive component that just deals with the realities of life. If that, God forbid, one spouse predeceases the other, we're going to lose a Social Security check, potentially. And also, what happens to the pension? Does that get cut? Because the way some pensions are set up, there's a decrease in benefit. So when one spouse passes away, instead of getting 100% of the benefit, maybe you get 75 or 50% of it. And if yours is set up that way, well, what plan is in place to make up those shortfalls? So there's a lot to it, I know. And these things work together. And it's so important, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's so important that when you sit down with a good investment advisor that happens to specialize in retirement planning, not only can they look at things from a holistic standpoint, but then also let you know, hey, here are some things that you need to be concerned with. See, my partners and I at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, we've been dealing with retirees for over 2 decades. So when we sit down with clients, not only can we address their concerns and their goals and their objectives and all that, not only do we look at things from a holistic standpoint, but because we've learned so much from our clients over the years that we can pass that knowledge on to you. And we can say, hey, you know what? I know you're going into retirement. Based upon your particular scenario, here are some things that we've seen our clients go through over the past 2 decades and things that they've ran into that we want to make you aware of. That maybe these are some things that you should at least be looking at or consider as part of your overall planning. That way you don't get hit by surprises. So under that particular situation, if the worst case scenario happens, and God forbid, and we'll go back to what we were talking about earlier, God forbid one spouse predeceases the other, and we lose a Social Security check, and maybe pensions get cut, the surviving spouse isn't like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I had no idea. And now they have to make dramatic changes in their lifestyle to offset the income loss. Instead, if they had a plan that was proactively put in place ahead of time, yeah, it's bad enough, one spouse predeceases, but at least on the retirement planning side of it, they can say, hey, you know what? We planned for this. We just turn this key, we trigger this event, and we have this income made up. We know exactly what we need to do, so that way the surviving spouse is not left in the cold, so to speak. So here's the thing, folks. At the end of the day, how are you going to know what it is that you know and what it is that you don't know? The best way to do that is, again, if you sit down with a qualified investment advisor that specializes in retirement planning, they can help you with all that. Even just give you a second opinion. If you care to take advantage of that in your situation, you're like, Rick, you know what? I really would like it if somebody could put just a second pair of eyeballs on all of this, my taxes, my investment planning, my pensions, my Social Security, make sure that everything is working as efficiently as possible. And you want someone to take a look at that. And again, or maybe it's just a second opinion. Maybe you're working with a current advisor and you're just like, hey, listen, it can't hurt for me to get a second opinion. You go to the doctor, he gives you an opinion. Sometimes you go to another doctor just to get a second opinion to cover your bases. You can't be afraid to do the same thing when it comes to your retirement planning, your estate planning, all of this. So if you care to, and you want, if you call the show right now, what I'll do is I'll offer you one of two things. If you want, we could do a 15-minute strategy call, and I can answer maybe some simple questions that you may have regarding your situation. Or if you'd like, be happy to offer you a 1-hour consultation where I can actually do it through Zoom. If you prefer, we could do a Zoom meeting, or you can come into the office and I can maybe show you some strategies, again, that you can use that will help you enhance what you've already been able to accomplish. And maybe when we look at everything, maybe you're doing everything perfectly. There's nothing, everything that you got based upon your goals, your objectives, everything that you have going on, if all those things are matching, well, then now you can actually have some weight taken off, just knowing, hey, you know what? Everything I'm doing is working perfectly in my situation. There's nothing for me to do, but at least it's nice to know, hey, I'm in a good spot. And it doesn't have to be in the back of your mind anymore. So if you care to take advantage of that, just give me a call, toll free. Maybe there's some things that you have questions on that are outside of what I talked about on the show today. Give us a call, toll free, 800-700-1980. Again, our toll free number is 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. Again, that's safeguardinvestment.com. My name is Rick Rivera. You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. Unfortunately, that brings us to the close of the show. But what I will do again is this week, let's do it one more time. Any of you that call the show and you have a topic that you would like me to cover on next week's show, and I pick that topic, we're going to send you a $25 gift certificate to Starbucks. So just give us a call, 800-700-1980. I want to thank all of you for listening and looking forward to talking to you all next week.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.